Hello, this video is about a very strange dream that I had back in the late 1990s. It's got nothing to do with narrowboats or canals, which is my usual video material, apart from the fact that it took place whilst I was sleeping aboard my boat. I wouldn't exactly describe it as a nightmare, but if you're prone to bad dreams or nightmares, some people would find this quite scary, so I advise you not to watch the rest of the video. So, back around 1997, 98 I reckon. I didn't write this dream down, but my memory of it is very, very strong. It started off as a normal dream, and in the dream I was in what was supposed to be a shop. And the shop consisted of two fairly normal sized rooms, one which led onto the street, and then there was a normal sized doorway, and two steps down to an inner room of about the same size. And in the dream I started off in the inner room. Now dreams can be a bit odd because although this was supposed to be a shop, there didn't appear to be anything in it. It was quite empty. I didn't see the shopkeeper, but in my mind they were there somewhere looking at me. The only other person in the shop was a young man. He was probably in his late teens, and he was standing in the doorway that connected the two rooms of the shop together, and he was leaning against the door frame, and he wore leather jacket, jeans, looking a bit sort of moody, not saying or doing anything at all. I was looking around the shop, not very much to see, so I decided to move from the inner room to the outer room, and to do this I had to walk past the young man who was standing in the doorway. And as I did so, as I got close to him, he reached down inside his leather jacket and he pulled out a great big knife and went to stab me. And that was a bit strange, quite startling. I wasn't expecting that. But the odd thing is, it wasn't scary. I sort of knew that he was just fooling around, just pretending. And I remember sort of slapping his arm away and telling him to stop that. And at that point I woke up. So I woke up. I was lying on my back in my bed at the back end of my narrowboat. It was early morning, the room was quite light, and I opened my eyes and I sat upwards in bed after having quite a bit of a shock from the dream that had just taken place. But it didn't end there. I was wide awake, my eyes were open, quite conscious, and hovering just below the ceiling of my boat was this very strange creature, which I could see with my, well, as far as I could tell, I could see with my physical eyes. It looked as real as anything else in the room. And it was grotesque and yet kind of comical at the same time. It looked very much like a pillow that was just floating below the ceiling, and it had a beige pillowcase on it. And the face that I've created for the graphic representation of this, it doesn't quite look the same. The actual thing that I saw, it looked like the loose-fitting pillowcase had been sort of folded and contorted into the shape of it was a big grinning face staring down at me, and it just hovered, just staring down at me. When I first saw it, I noticed in the background they were smaller, more distant looking. There were two or three other ones as well, and they kind of drifted and dissolved away into nothing. And yet this big, I call it the pillow monster, it was just floated there and stared at me. It was really strange. I gazed at it for several seconds, and then I grinned at it and said, "Okay, time to go now, you're not welcome here." And then it looked at me for another half a second or so, and then it just faded away and was gone. Now, I've never had a dream like that before, and I haven't had one like that since. So this is really odd. But another odd thing was that the moment I woke up and saw this creature, I kind of knew everything I needed to know about it, which is really odd. The information was just in my head. There was no thought, no reasoning, no deduction. I just knew. And what this creature was, according to this instant knowledge, if you can call it that, it was an elemental nature spirit. They live on the lower astral plane. They're non-physical creatures. They don't have any bodies of their own, and they can take on any form that is projected onto them. And in this case it was some sort of grotesque pillow monster. Don't know where that came from, something to do with my subconscious, I suppose. But it could have equally have appeared as anything. It could have looked like a demon, it could have looked like a hot water bottle or a teacup, you know, it could have been anything. But this thing appeared as a pillow monster. Another thing that I knew was that there was absolutely nothing to be afraid of about this creature. I think the being had in some way manipulated my dream of the young man with the knife. I think it was playing a part somewhere there, and then I woke up and saw a different version of it. They have no power over you, they can't hurt you. These entities, or whatever they are, they're not evil in themselves. They're not good, they're not evil, they're kind of mischievous creatures. They'll latch onto you, they'll play around you, they'll torment you, and they'll frighten you if you allow them to. But there really is nothing to fear from them. So the reason I'm saying that is because the only possible thing that I could think of that may have triggered it was the fact that I was reading a book called Astral Odyssey by Carol Eby, and I'd been reading that sort of in the preceding days or so, and in that book she describes some vaguely similar events. So I think it maybe it planted the seed for this to happen. And of course the power suggestion, it may have been the cause of it. I'm not adding this to my regular sort of videos because it's not regular sort of material. In my life I've had just a handful of sort of bizarre, possibly supernatural happenings, and I just wanted to make a video record of them really, just as an exercise. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time, and don't let the bed bugs bite.